Hayabusa! Guys, this Hayabusa video is brought to you guys by Rockform, the best motorcycle foam mount ever. This episode is sponsored by Rockform. It is one of the best motorcycle foam mounts I've ever seen. Bam. Just clip your phone in there. It's not going anywhere. No things hanging on the side of it or grabbing it or getting in the way of the buttons or touching it. It's probably the cleanest look. This is a 2013 Suzuki Hayabusa, or the GSXR 1300. And it is at the top of the family chain, or the food chain, in the GSXR family. And it's also one of the coolest motorcycles ever built. I'm gonna show you guys all about it. Now this is the first gen Hayabusa, and they're kind of known for what I call the horn. Kind of like I was in 3rd grade, but I got that removed surgically. First gen Hayabusa came out in 1999, and that generation lasted until 2007. And then in 2008 until current 2020, they've been running the 2nd gen Hayabusa. Now, of course, in different years, they do have different colors, but the bike has pretty much remained the same throughout the entire time. Now, Hayabusa in Japanese means falcon. And you can kind of see this thing has bird-ish, you know, the front kind of looks like a beak. It's got birdish qualities, and it's kind of a metaphor for actually the reason why they made it. They made this bike, a falcon is a bird of prey that also kills other birds. What bike were they using the Hayabusa to take out? The previous fastest motorcycle ever made, the Honda CBX XX Blackbird. A bird that kills birds? That makes sense. Now the Hayabusa is curvy. It's got big, giant, voluptuous curves. Every part of it. The fender's giant and curvy. The front end's curvy. The headlight, somehow the headlight itself has giant curves in it. It's just a very curvy bike, and a lot of people don't like it because of that. But that's part of the aerodynamics. That's what keeps it stable at speeds over 200 miles an hour. Now let's talk about some of the specs of the bike. 5.5 gallon fuel tank. It's got a 58.5 inch wheelbase, which is pretty long wheelbase. It's got a rear 190 tire, the same type of tire you're gonna see on the 1000 motorcycles. Now you can't see it, but just believe me, it's behind here, a giant 1340cc 4-cylinder motor. Now when this Hayabusa came out, it had an MSRP of $14,399, which for a motorcycle that can do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, if you know what you're doing and if you have enough time to practice it, that's a pretty good value for your buck. So not only can this thing do 0 to 60 in around 2.5 seconds, but with a slight couple modifications, stretch the back end out, and a rider that knows what he's doing, we've seen numbers as quick as 1.5 seconds in 0 to 60, which is insane in your face Tesla model Roadster. But the 0 to 60 is not the most impressive part about it. It's what it does after 60 miles an hour, of how this thing just goes from 60 to 120 in basically no time at all. It's insane. And now to see a stock Busa like this in the wild naturally, it's actually getting to be pretty rare, because the Busa is the motorcycle of choice for a lot of people to modify them. It's very common that you'll see a big, giant, humongous, 330 back tire. It's very common and normal for you to see a big, humongous, giant back tire on these things. They have the swing arm to be stretched. They have the bike to be lowered, or the paint be, custom paint job. So it's very rare to see them in this form. But the truth is, I like my Hayabusas just like I like my women. Stock. All right, but here's the thing about the Hayabusa. Here's the truth about it. It's awesome. Let's go take it for a spin. All right, guys, little words of wisdom. Mark 9:23, and Jesus said to him, "If you can, all things are possible to him who believes." Now, we need a little bit of backstory. The rest of the chapter is talking about a dad who's coming to Jesus, and he's got a son who's possessed, and will be like compulsing and throws himself into the fire and in the water to try to hurt him. And he comes to Jesus and says, "If you can, heal him. And Jesus is like, "If I can," and then bam, all things are possible through Jesus, and he heals him. It's amazing. Let's take this beast for a spin. Now this is the bike, the big, the bad the mean, the Hayabusa. This is the bike that your mom warned your daughter to stay away from. You stay away from that bike. It's a big, bad, mean bike, but you know what? When you get to know it, it's just a gentle giant. It's just a tool. It's a big, bad, mean, comforting. You know, I get on this motorcycle and I feel like I'm home. Love the second gen Hayabusa. Let's go see what it's all about. Now, right off the bat, when you're driving a fast car or an exotic car or something like that, right off the bat, here's the biggest difference. This is a mindset difference between cars and motorcycles. So in a performance car, they have all the driver's aids. They're defaulted to be on whenever you start the car. You can turn them off. You press a lot of buttons, hold stuff down for multiple seconds. It's kind of a pain. But then when you turn the car back on and off, bam, they're all back. They're all there. That's the greatest thing. That's why I love motorcycles. Because motorcycles default you to the most intense. Like, this defaults in A mode. You have to manually switch it to B or C mode, which kind of brings the power down, brings down the throttle response, you know, maybe for rain or something like that. It also makes the bike a little more attainable if you are, when you first get it. Now, I'm not saying this is a beginner bike, because it's not, but it's definitely more usable and obtainable when you first get it and you're like, I'm gonna work myself into this. I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm gonna bust out. I'm gonna bust out B mode, or C mode. I'm gonna go to C mode. I'm gonna go to third gear. And then I'm gonna floor it. And I'm gonna say that wasn't that bad. And then you try it in second gear. You know what I mean? You start working your way up. You get used to the bike. See what it's gonna do. Don't just go straight up A mode from a dig in a corner, flooring it, you know? Now, another thing about this motorcycle, and this has more of a characteristics of a 600 than it does of a 1000. Let me explain. Now, this is, I think it's a 1340. It's almost a 1400. So let me explain about that. It's big, insane, like break your neck speeds are all at the higher RPM. They're all at this top end of the spectrum. Now, a leader bike, you're gonna feel it's got really good low and mid. And don't get me wrong, this has good low and mid, but this thing pulls your arms off at those higher RPMs, and it is a blast to drive. Let's go find out. Now, don't think that this bike is just a drag race bike, that all you can do with this bike is drag race it. That's just not true. This bike is just as comfortable on the drag strip as this thing is on the road course. You can take this bike the way it is, make sure the tire pressure is good. I think my front tire pressure is off a little bit. You can take this bike the way it is, and you can go drag knee on a track, Road Atlanta, New Jersey Motorsports Park, anywhere, and just have a blast. And you're gonna be, you know, it's gonna be tough for people to keep up with you on the streets and in the corners if you know what you're doing. I really do love this bike. I believe the second gen had a much better connection with a road course, you know, track bike than the first gen did. I just think they handle a little bit better. Let's see what we can do. Now, here's the problem. This is a tough bike to do a 0 to 60 on. Not the easiest bike, but we're gonna do it. That's horrible. That was horrible. I'm trying to keep the front end down. I got maybe half throttle. I could do better than that. So here's another place that this bike feels so incredibly at home, and that's cruising on the highway. Now you'll notice that the handlebars are a little bit higher than the triple clamps, which is a little more ergonomically, you know, comfortable for cruising on the highway. If you're gonna do a big trip on a sport bike, a lot of guys, their bike of choice is the Hayabusa. Also because you can cruise at the higher speeds and the RPMs stay pretty low. I love these bikes. I love these big, bad sport bikes. Now, most sport bikes, the 600s, the 1000s, they're all kind of the same size in terms of actual frame and stuff like that. I'm 6'2", you know, they're all a little tight, but it's fine. That's just how they are. A lot of the big guys, the real big guys, you know, 6'5" and stuff like that, they all prefer to ride the Hayabusa because it is a bigger bike. It is a significantly bigger bike, and they feel a little more spaced out. Guys, this bike and a bunch of other bikes are for sale at Srkcycles.com. We will catch you later. Remember, it is not what you're riding, but where you're going. Watch this.